Howdy, welcome to my channel. Today I'm participating in the Scrap Hoarders collaboration series. There are 12 crafters in this collaboration, and for the next 2 weeks we are going to show you different ways to use your scraps. We all have tons of scraps from our card making and other paper crafting. And this week we are going to show you how to use those scraps to make tags and bookmarks. Next week it'll be cards. At the top of the description box you will find the link to the next person in the lineup. I hope you take the time to watch all 12 videos. And as always, we love your comments and thumbs ups. And if you aren't already a subscriber, we hope you consider subscribing and click on the little bell icon so you won't miss the next volume of the Scrap Hoarders series. You can also use the hashtag Scrap Hoarders to find all of our videos. Some of us might be offering prizes on our channels, so be sure to stay for details. And at the end of this 3-week series, we will have 3 grand prize winners drawn from those that watched and commented on all 12 videos each week. Last week we covered making embellishments, so today we are showing you how to make tags and bookmarks. Let's begin. For our first bookmark, we're going to take an old envelope and some of our scraps. We're going to use our paper trimmer to cut the corners off of our envelope. The good thing about an envelope is that it has, technically it has 4 sides, but you usually wind up opening up one of those sides, so I would say you at least have 2 good sides left to create a bookmark. So what you're going to want to do is whichever part is your top, you're going to want to write top, because it is easy to forget which side is the top of your bookmark and which side is the bottom of your bookmark. If the corners of your envelope aren't exactly flat, what you can do is take a bone folder to flatten them back down. Then what you'll want to do is sort of make like a little cone out of your envelope corner and put your cardstock piece in there. But you will want to make sure that it is glued on the backing. I like to use a scrap of paper for gluing because I don't necessarily want it on my desk or my paper trimmer. Then I'll take my corner and sort of make it into a cone. Then I'll stick the cardstock piece in all the way, and then you can smooth it out to make sure that your glue got attached to your inside of your envelope. You find that your cardstock piece is a bit large for the corner that you cut, because I like to try to turn these into squares. What you can do is use your paper trimmer again. So there is the front of your bookmark, which you could leave like this if you wanted to, but we're not going to do that. That's why we have our pattern paper piece. We're going to cut our pattern paper so that it fits this front flap and the back piece of our bookmark. I'm not going to give you measurements on this because this is one of those things that depends on what size you cut for your corner out of your envelope. I'm just going to say that you would want to make it as square as possible. So that's about, so 2.5 squared is what that is. So what you do is you cut your paper down to that. we're cutting a long strip so that way our front and our back of our bookmark looks the same, but you can create your bookmark so that it looks however you would like to. So that means you can use a different pattern paper on the front and the back. And I have a good rule of thumb. If it gets smaller, if it's as small as an inch for me, that's when I discard my paper scraps. So now we glue pattern paper to the back side and pattern paper to the front side of our bookmark. A trick to make sure that you get that in correctly is to take your stamping platform, if you have one, and put that paper into your stamping platform, and then you can match up the sides. That way it'll go on smoothly. And then there is a bit of overage on the paper, so you can just take your paper trimmer again, or you can take a pair of scissors. We're going to take our pair of scissors. You'll just want to make sure that you don't have any pattern paper showing where you didn't intend for it to. That's why we're using our scissors. Then you've just got the top of your bookmark to cover. So for that, what you're going to want to do is we cut both of these pieces of pattern paper scrap into squares. So you'll just want to take this square and cut it into a triangle. We're going to use our paper trimmer for that. Then you just put additional glue just on this flap that says top. Then again, you can take your stamping platform and just stick it in the corner like so. Actually, what we're going to do is stick it in the corner like this. That way, if we have any overage on this triangle piece, we can easily trim it down. So now we can trim it down. If you wanted to, you could place a little stamp on here, like stamp a little sentiment on here, but I'm okay with leaving it like this. For our next bookmark, we're going to be taking these scraps of paper and our cardstock, and we're going to bring in a bit of sewing using the sewing machine. We're going to cut our cardstock piece to 1.5, and so it's 1.5 by 5.5. Then we're going to take our heart-shaped die cuts, and using the second one from the smallest, we're going to cut our pattern paper out. Before using our sewing machine, we'll take some washi tape and only cover half of the heart because we just want it secure for when we run it through the sewing machine. But if we have adhesive in it, it could gum up the works on our sewing machine. We tape this side down so that they don't shift while we're sewing. That's because you don't want adhesive in direct lineup with your sewing because it'll gum up your sewing machine. This is not a fancy sewing machine. It's called a Little So-and-So. It's a very inexpensive sewing machine. I just use it for working on paper. But if you have a regular sewing machine, you could totally use it to create this same look. For our third bookmark today, we're going to take scraps of cardstock and we're going to cut them down to 1 1/4 wide by 6 tall. Now this bookmark is going to take quite a bit of glue, so I would recommend you use your favorite glue that you know has a very strong hold. So actually we're going to cut it to 5 1/2 because our paper trimmer doesn't go to 6. Now I do have paper trimmers that go all the way to 12, but they're not exactly great for showing on camera because they don't quite fit. So if you have a scrap that's too little to hold on to while you trim it down to 1/4 inch, what you can do is use washi tape to hold it in place. I would recommend you use the washi tape at the top and the bottom, so that way it doesn't slide while you're trimming the paper. There you go. Now the next thing I recommend is using a quilling tool, because you're going to want to roll the paper so that it's more pliable when it comes time to folding it. For this, I'm going to use a liquid glue. You can use any liquid glue you have on hand. I have liquid glue from Fantastic Glaze and Glue, Liquid Glass, and Barely Art. I haven't opened my Barely Art yet. I'm going to, but I just haven't found the time yet. For this, we're just going to use our liquid glass today. So what you do is you glue the tips of your cardstock to each other. Then you glue the second strips of cardstock right beside those first 2 strips of cardstock. You're going to try to get your cardstock to meet edge to edge. If it doesn't, that's okay. You can take your paper trimmer and trim off any excess piece you have. So now that our pieces are secured onto each other, what we're going to do is use our bone folder and press the creases along the way. We'll also continue to use our liquid glass on this. So you see how there are 2 strips on the right and 2 strips on the left. We're going to move the strips to the left, to the right, and vice versa. Now to hold that in place, we're going to put some glue right in this section. And now you take the other pieces of cardstock and fold them over. And then you just place some glue on there also. Then we just continue this process. I like to do my fold first before I put the glue down. I also like to keep the freezer paper underneath because there's a bit more gluing here than we did in the previous bookmark. This bookmark making technique might not be for everyone, but I wanted to give y'all another option to the many I'm sure you're getting from the other ladies that are on the hop. But I will tell you that I tried doing this technique without doing the quilling, and it wasn't nearly as easy to do. As you can tell, we've come to the road on our bookmark, and there's a little bit of a piece sticking out. So all we're going to do for that is cut it. If it bothers you that there are gluey parts showing on your bookmark, what you can do is take your Mod Podge and put a small coat on it. That way it will help maintain the integrity of your bookmark. It'll also hide those gluey sections. So we're just going to take our brush and put it on our bookmark. And we'll just wait for it to dry, and we'll repeat that process. Then our bookmark will be all done and ready to go in our book. So the final bookmarks we came up with are to do a bit of sewing using some paper scraps. We recycled an envelope and turned it into a corner bookmark. And we learned how to braid paper and make that into a bookmark also. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay crafty. Remember, the link is at the bottom in the description box for the next person to hop to. Bye.